Awesome to see so many people here. Let's, I guess, go ahead and start with some introductions. Sorry, yes. Just simply for, when I say sign in, simply put your name and your organization in the chat. That's what I meant by that. Because this is not a too huge group, though, I think it would be good if we could just do a quick round the room and say what you're, who you're working with. I don't know if other people have found like super easy ways to do a round room thing, since everybody's Zoom screen is different. Unless you guys know a better way, I'll just call on people as they appear in my Zoom screen. I saw Rex do that yesterday and it was quite efficient. So actually, here before me is Michael. Why don't you say a thing or two about who you are, Michael?
Hi, I'm Michael. I've been volunteering with Peter on this alignment project, doing organizational stuff. I'm here to take notes and give a little presentation, and yeah, excited to be here.
And Michael has an exciting piece of news he didn't share. Is he's about to start a job with Albemarle Parks and Recreation, working at Dardental. So he's going to be our mole inside Parks and Rec, and he's going to, for example, answer questions we've been wondering about, like, does Dan Mahan actually like the outdoors, or is that just something he pretends about really well? We'll soon find out. Diana, tell us about yourself.
Hi, my name is Diana and I work for Sentara Martha Jefferson Hospital. I'm in charge of the youth programming in the community. So we have a lot of various programs that we do, and I'm also part of the Move to Health Coalition.
Awesome. Marco.
Hey, met some of you, others haven't. I'm the communications manager at the Piedmont Environmental Council, so sort of helping Peter and Rex on the back end promote some of the work they're doing and figure out how to get the word out.
Awesome. Terry.
I'm Terry Kent. I'm with the Community Climate Collaborative. It's a nonprofit here in Charlottesville.
Thank you. Dan.
I think that's me.
Yep.
Albemarle County Community Development and Transportation Planning.
Welcome, good to see you. Max, I bet most people don't know who you are. Let us know.
Right, yeah, that's understandable. I just moved here, well, it's been already a few months, but you know how things are. You don't meet a lot of people nowadays, so glad to be here. I'm German. I lived before in the DC area for a couple of years, then for about 1.5 years in Minneapolis area. And now I'm back in Virginia, but no longer in Northern Virginia, but here. Very excited about this new group here. I am with POCACITO, Post-Carbon Cities of Tomorrow. So we work on urban sustainability with a focus on climate action, both mitigation and adaptation. But personally, I'm very interested in non-motorized mobility. And so that's something where I also feel very strongly personally about. And I know it's very difficult here. It's not a easy topic, both because of, you know, tradition or history, but also the climate and the hills, the geography. So everything is tough, but I think it's great to have this group here. Thank you for organizing this.
Thank you, Max. Rip.
Hi, I'm Rip Verkerke, the president of the Ravenna Trails Foundation. Just like to be involved and advocate for improvements in our bike ped network, and hoping that this group will achieve that goal.
Thank you. Bill.
Hi there, everybody. Bill Palmer. I should change that from William to Bill. UVA, I'm a campus planner, and I do a lot of GIS work, and then help with a lot of these transportation-related platforms and stuff that we have in the community.
Great to see you, Bill. Frank D.
Hi, I'm Frank DeVinny. I represent the Charlottesville Bike Ped Advisory Committee for this group, and I'm also the administrator of the Bike Albemarle Facebook page. BPAC's sort of been out of commission. We're not really allowed to meet since COVID, so it's sort of been rough to get anything done. But there has been some movement lately, so maybe we'll be able to start meeting again.
Thank you, Frank. Frank mentioned BPAC because he's nominally the representative from the Charlottesville Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory. Matt.
Good morning. My name is Matt Lawless. I'm the town administrator down here in Scottsville. I'm happy to help with anything in this neck of the woods. Regular walk to work.
Lucinda.
Hi, I'm Lucinda Shannon with the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission. I work on transportation planning and metropolitan planning organization stuff.
Thank you. Peter Holmes.
Hi, I'm the other Peter. I'm with the Virginia Transportation Research Council, which is the research division of VDOT.
Welcome. Hey, Kim, good to see you. Tell us about yourself. Good.
Hi, I am a citizen in Albemarle County and sit on the county's hydraulic citizen advisory council, which is the way the county kind of helps see what citizens want with the master planning. So the Places 29 master plan kind of is supposedly supposed to guide some development in this part of the woods. And so we're a fraction of the master plan area, and our group has focused on the Charlotte Humphreys Park, which is a little pocket park near Albemarle High School, and worked with the Parks and Rec Department to have them do some tree cleanup and put in some park benches. So we're citizens just trying to start from the ground up.
Awesome, so great to see you. And I'm especially glad to see Kim because she brings a strong perspective from that hydraulic Commonwealth, Albemarle High School, Stonefield zone that if you look at a map is actually right in the middle of the Charlottesville, Albemarle sort of combined area. It's not a fringe community, it's definitely a core community. Thomas, introduce yourself.
Hi everybody. I am relatively new to the RTF board and also Charlottesville. I've been here for about a year now, and I'm just looking to get to know more about this and be involved.
Awesome, we're so glad to have you. Rex.
Hey, Rex Linville with Piedmont Environmental Council, work with Marco and Peter on a variety of issues in the area, but Peter sort of handles the community outreach and coordination of our bike ped work, and I work on a lot of the easement and right-of-way acquisition stuff that we do related to our land conservation work in the area.
Great to see you. Emily.
Hi everyone, Emily Little. There may be large quantities of giggles in the background since I'm home with my 3 kids, but I am on the CVIL 100 board and doing climate work, so I'm interested in making Charlottesville and Albemarle even better to walk and bike in.
Awesome to see you. Emily, could you quickly tell us also about your medical background a little bit? I think that's really interesting and relevant.
Yes, well, I'm home with kids now, but before that, I was an emergency room nurse. So I have a health background, and obviously, emergency room nurses care about the safety of bikers and walkers because cars are less safe than it's good for your health, and it's safer to be, walking and biking.
Thank you. Hey, Jessica, tell us about yourself real quick.
Hi, I'm Jessica Hirsch-Ballering. I'm a transportation planner specializing in alternative transportation at the TJPDC and the MPO. Also, just personally, I strategize my life so I can walk and bike as much as possible. And since Emily mentioned her 2 kids, her 3 kids, I have 2 kids, so I'm also teaching to walk and bike everywhere.
It's awesome. I like that they're walking and biking at the same time. That's a proper order. Maybe swimming too. Allie.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Allie Hill. I'm a volunteer with the Ravenna Trail Foundation and also working with the 3 Notch Trail Planning Group, which is hopefully a greenway between Charlottesville through Ivy Crozet and onto the Blue Ridge Tunnel. So I'm glad to be here.
Amanda.
Hey, good morning. My name is Amanda Ponce. I'm the bicycle and pedestrian coordinator with the city.
So good to see you. Lucinda. I don't know, maybe.
Sorry.
Oh, hey, Lucinda.
Hi, I'm Lucinda Shannon with the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission and the Charlottesville Albemarle MPO.
Great to see you. Shane.
Good morning, everyone. Shane Sawyer with the VDOT Central Office, based out of Richmond. However, I am a resident of the Charlottesville area.
Great to see you. We're so fortunate that Shane works out of Richmond but lives here and really understands what's happening here and is an awesome ally. Ned.
Yeah, Ned Mickey. I'm a longtime member of the Ravenna Trails Foundation Board and also on the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, and was on the school board for a long time, and so interested in getting people around safely. And thanks for organizing the group.
Yeah, awesome to see you. Also, Ned hails from the sort of northern part of the city, which is actually the core of the Charlottesville Albemarle urban area, and gives a good perspective of how that area can be a hub for the area. So
yeah, I'm in the president of the Greenbrier Neighborhood Association currently, and Greenbrier contains a lot of the Meadow Creek corridor, which is still in the planning phases. It has a plan for a multi-use path along the whole corridor, and so yeah.
Yep, since Chris Ginsick isn't here, somebody had to evangelize about that. Paula. Dan, why don't you, oh, sorry, Paula's now on mute.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Paula. I'm with the UVA Foundation. I, like Allie, am interested in connecting Albemarle County to Augusta County. I live in the Valley. I'm an avid hiker, and we have also developed a few trails at the Boar's Head, maybe to connect Fontaine into Ivy area as well.
Awesome to see you. But before the meeting started, I was just telling folks about how my colleagues and I were up walking in Ragged Mountain, and you really can't tell the difference between whether you're in Fox Haven or Boar's Head or Ragged Mountain, and that's a good thing. And
it's perfect. So I'm looking for future development. There's lots to be done.
Awesome to see you. Dan Mahan, introduce yourself. I think you're the last to arrive.
Hey guys, I'm here.
You don't see me because I'm actually driving out to a site right now to work with fire and rescue on identifying access points for emergency access and ingress to the river. So I'll be listening in, but I'm with Albemarle County Parks. I've been working on county greenways and city projects and regional greenways for about 20 years. Start out with the RTF, and that's all I gotta say.
Okay, awesome to see you, Dan, and you know, good to know you've been at it for a while and that you're with us for the long term going forward too.
Oh yeah,
Peter,
there's a lot of work to do.
You skipped Liz.
Oh, okay. I'm so sorry, Liz. Thank you for not getting too mad. What?
No problem. Dan, if you need access through any of Monticello's land, let me know. You know, we know a lot of the river. I'm Liz Russell. I'm with the Thomas Jefferson Foundation, and I represent, in this capacity, Monticello's land use and planning efforts. I work with city and county and other partners on these things. Most recently, I've worked with this group in efforts to find alternative transportation access to Saunders Trail, and ultimately the goal being Monticello. And then also just a plug for one of my personal and professional goals would be to see the extension of the Old Mills Trail along the north side of the Rivanna River, extending a trail through along the old canal and towpaths through Lego Farm, Shadwell, and then points beyond all the way to Fluvanna. That's a project that Dan and I have been working on for years now.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just as a sort of shameless plug, since we're not doing bike civil group rides, we're just actively promoting people to ride their bikes. And so this week we're encouraging people to ride down to the river, and the Old Mills Trail is a great way to experience the Rivanna River. You can pick it up at Freebridge or at Dardental Park. Those are the two easiest places to pick it up. Awesome. Well, so happy to see a whole screen full of friends and allies, and it's good to reconnect. This time we're going to go through a few actually business items rather than doing updates first, and then we'll do some round room updates that'll kind of build on what we're each working on. The agenda has a lot of things on it, but I think we can move through them relatively quickly. I'd like to start by with a quick report from Michael, who has been monitoring the results of our organization survey, which we are using to build out our roster and also to gather information that we can use for our collective impact approach to working together on shared goals and sending resources where there is need and back and forth. So why don't you go ahead and present, Michael.
All right. Okay, so this is what we've heard about you from you. We had 21 responses to the Google form, and as you can see, many nonprofits, but also government bodies, small businesses, community groups, and individuals. We are still hoping to grow this group, so tell your friends to fill out the survey, and we can add them to this list and to this graph. I took all of the missions that were submitted in the form and sort of compiled them into this mass here. And so there are some main ideas that I found that run through the missions. The main theme is advocacy. There's area trail groups and users advocating for trail systems, local government agencies advocating for citizens, nonprofit groups advocating for sustainable development and community accessibility and many, many other things. But going beyond that big umbrella of advocacy, with support for trails and greenways, namely the Ravenna Trail Foundation, the Mountain Bike Club, and Trail Runners, and County Parks and Rec are some of the groups we had respond in that area. Community support, groups like the Eco Village Education Institute and the town of Scottsville. And then, support for accessibility, Charlottesville Community Bikes and Safe Routes to School, both advocating for safe access to biking and education. Sustainability, the McIntyre Botanical Garden, PEC, and the Post-Carbon Cities of Tomorrow are all supporting some form of sustainability, whether flora or infrastructure development. And then beyond those, there's cooperation, which is why we're all here. There's a lot of overlap in passion and pursuit between all of the responses that we got and all of the groups that joined. So what do we have to work with and what do we need? A lot of reports of various types of experience, things like GIS, other mapping, fundraising, event experience. We also have information in specific areas, but still looking for more information in others. Like we have mapping data, but the UVA Center for Design and Health is still looking to conduct research, for example. And many of you reported contacts, established groups have friends, followers, volunteers who could possibly be involved in other campaigns and other projects with related groups. A lot of responses desiring funding, but there's also a lot of groups who noted that they have experience in fundraising. So there's an opportunity to join these groups together in common pursuits. Also groups need volunteers and contacts, which are also existing in others. So there's a lot of overlap between held resources and desires and many, many opportunities for cooperation and collaboration. And so the last part of the form was about meeting time. According to the responses, weekend evenings are the only time without any not possible responses. So I recommend weekday evenings, maybe 5 or 6 p.m. And since many groups meet at the beginning of the month, maybe it would be good to meet at the end of the month. I think Peter has more on this later, but this is what we got right from the data. So that's all I have.
Thank you. So does anybody have any questions or one immediate benefit that I saw from this survey, and I think most of you have probably already filled it in. If you haven't, please do so. The link will be in the chat. And over the next couple of weeks and months, I'm going to push this out into different types of organizations. And this first push was for our existing group, but also I plan to do a specific push to active recreation groups that are either official or unofficial, and I also want to do a push to businesses. And one immediate thing that we've learned from the survey that we couldn't learn from just talking amongst ourselves is that the daytime meeting time, as I suspected, actually excludes certain people, and a few people were able to communicate to our survey through our survey that an evening time would work for them. So that's a survey is not perfect, but it provides new information that as you add to talking to people and focus groups and other forms of research, gives a little bit more of a broad view. So 21 responses is good so far, and hopefully by the time we're done, it'll be something like 40 or 50, and then we'll really have something to work with. And Michael's going to keep monitoring this, so that's helpful. Since I raised the issue of meetings, it's also on the agenda, just one step down. So let's dig into that super quick. So these meetings have been happening on kind of an ad hoc basis. They've been happening quarterly. We've managed to keep that flow going, but without a decision about when they happen and what the structure is. So I have a proposal, which is to have the meetings, bump them up to every 2 months. See how that goes instead of quarterly. 6 times a year, may or may not be every 2 months. And doing them at like a happy hour-ish time that's sort of at the cusp of the end of the day. So like 5 to 6:30, something like that. And one approach that I've seen that's kind of interesting is the Shenandoah Bike Coalition does their steering committee meetings in combination with a social. So it's like a 2-hour block, and they have 1 hour that's like their business meeting, and then they have 1 hour that's kind of a presentation from somebody who's interesting, and then drinking beers together or whatever. And we're already doing both of those things. We're already having socials, and we're already doing steering committee meetings. So I was thinking of doing our, if we do something at like 5 o'clock, we could have a presentation from like a medium level presentation. Like we could have the folks from the Shenandoah Bike Coalition come in and talk about what they're doing. Or we could even, I don't know, have today, it would be interesting to have someone from the United Way talking about the Day of Caring or something like that. Would those two things be acceptable? Or are there strong objections to doing? I'm asking for feedback on 2 things, every 2 months and this 5 o'clock-ish time frame.
Seems good.
Okay, so then we'll plan to meet again in October, and I'm gonna send out a doodle poll, but the times are only gonna be like in that 4 to 7 time range on weekdays, and see where we go from there. I've reached out separately to those folks who have said they can't come to this meeting. I've reached out to them separately with that question, so we'll see what they say. I just did that yesterday and I haven't heard back. The next business item I would like to get to is this whole time, ever since we started back in 2017, we've been having an evolving creed, which is like a mission statement or a statement of values. And as we become more formal, it's going to matter more, and people are going to be asking about it. And in the past, people have asked and I've told them and they're like, oh, that's awesome. But I think it's important to revisit it, every 6 months or every year. And last time we talked about it was in our January meeting, but a lot has changed since January in terms of what organizations are thinking about in terms of their meeting, their creed. So I'm going to share that, and you guys can comment on it remotely, but I'm also going to put it on the screen right now, and we can discuss as needed. So let's see here. Let me move crap out of the way. All right, so This is the section I want for you guys to think about. Thoughts?
I guess one thought that I have is just, I hate to be a wordsmith, but like removing the multimodal, it just is kind of jargony. So maybe we believe that everyone in our community should have walking and biking access to education, or have access to education, blah, 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 via walking and biking, but, or walking, biking, transit, however you want to say it, but just multimodal can be a little bit jargony.
Agreed. And not only, but in that discussion we had in January, we said, please, let's not have jargon. And that is jargon.
Peter, maybe this isn't necessary, but I do like the word inclusive, and I'll just add that.
Okay. Thank you, Terry. The creed actually did get a sort of mini refresh in the in-between time. Jessica and I talked about it, and we audited it in the sense of like, okay, are we talking about justice? Are we talking about inclusion? Are we talking about diversity? And yet also, we know that those keywords change all the time. I mean, and yet they need to be permanent features. So I think inclusion is one of those permanent features. How about we even talk about it, well, yeah. Even like inclusive access, we're getting rid of multimodal. So for example, and it's fine for us to change it around every year or so. Oh, Alking, sorry about my spelling. I literally got a D in spelling back in 3rd grade. All right, something like that. Like I say, I'm going to share this as a key highlighted thing in the minutes that I'd like for you guys to think about. And I wanted to get your sense, is it something that ought to be voted, or is simply discussing it periodically? We're not a like registered organization, and we don't have to have bylaws. So.
We could proceed by consensus when that's possible.
Yeah, I was hoping to actually run by consensus, because we also have no way of defining whether we have a quorum or not. So any kind of voting is a bit suspect, particularly when we acknowledge on tape that certain people are not even here. So we'll have a consensus that is subject for perpetual renewal, if that's fine for you guys. Awesome. Then another sort of fast discussion topic I wanted to get into before we have one item that is actually going to be a little bit more substantial, is talk about ideas about growing the coalition. So I invite each of you to, you've seen what the creed is, you've participated in owning that creed. I invite you to reach out to other organizations that you feel share our creed, and then make that part of your go forth and conquer, and then sort of as staff support for this stuff. I can be methodical about it and put it on my punch list of like, okay, reach out to these folks. And I wanted to just sort of brainstorm with you guys who should be like specifically reached out to. And if you could be as specific as possible, I would appreciate it. I already have on my punch list active recreation businesses, and I have affiliation groups in the walking, running, biking space, formal and informal. So I have a list of meetups and I have a list of 501c3s, and I'm going to reach out to both of them.
Peter, it just occurred to me that it might be nice to involve some active senior group. I don't know if that's Peter at the center, maybe he would have some thoughts.
Yeah, that's a great thought there. So they also are on my sort of affiliation group. So like the Java, the center, in fact, Java usually has a representative at this meeting. So groups like that, like it would be helpful if you guys can help me find contacts, although I'm going to dig them up. But I think the actual senior centers, like Canterbury, has a walking group also. Also, I have UVA affiliated groups already on my punch list. Be thinking about it. It's like our creed. It's a permanent part of our work going forward. Yeah, Terry, that's a awesome offer that you put in the chat. So if I could get a batch list, I could just send a batch outlook, and I can audit it against my own list. Yeah. Thanks, Emily. Kyle also, he actually RSVP'd for this meeting, so I'm not. He's an example of someone who has trouble making it at this time.
Maybe possibly PTOs too, just to expand the group of people interested.
Yeah, and Kyle might be able to help us link with those. I keep saying the word Kyle. Kyle's the city's Safe Routes to School coordinator. Also county, reaching out to the county schools.
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to mention was the schools, the high schools.
Is there a good way to reach, I mean, I guess someone at the county school district would be the way to reach county schools? What do you think, Dan?
Well, no, Monticello has a really active bike club, and you could start there.
Yeah, I think you'd probably get the most support going through clubs.
Yeah.
Then you'd really get involvement from the teens.
That's awesome. And in fact, I've kind of always wanted to have like a youth advisory group. And folks have always said, well, start with the high school bike clubs and stuff. So that's a good way. It would be awesome to find a champion, maybe a volunteer who can be really sort of the champion for tracking those folks down.
Also, Miller School, I don't know if you've spoken with them before yet.
Okay. Oh, Terry, I'm so glad you're in this meeting. You're turning out to be the gold mine of resources. Super helpful. Ongoing work, and let's be thinking about it. If you know any smart high schoolers who are looking for ways to volunteer and be involved, PC can provide that structure. We have a very robust volunteer program. So that's one of those things that we can share is we have an abundance of volunteers.
So I might add that the students get community service credit time for being involved in various community projects. This certainly would fit.
Someone from the county with high school age kids I have the understanding that Western has kind of an environmental science focus. Is that correct?
They've got an incredible program. Yep.
Yeah, each county high school has some sort of academy. So like health sciences is at Monticello. So that would be another one maybe to connect with.
So my daughter is this is Allie Hill here. My daughter is in the Environmental Science Academy at Western Albemarle, and I can reach out on behalf of this group and see if there are some partnership ideas if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
I don't know who said on the call, but I think what you are getting at is if students have to do mandatory community service time, is that, because that wouldn't be aligned, like, right? I mean, we're looking for people that don't have to do anything. So anyway, I just wanted to clarify what community service time was.
Yeah, so I could imagine working with like an older high school kid to work on sort of a coordination role, like a coordination level. What we don't need, and I'm sure you can relate to it, is working at a nonprofit, is somebody that needs work and we're providing them a service by giving them work and spending tons of time managing. So finding that sweet spot, like awesome. Sorry, in the Zoom reality, my child is texting me. So, okay, thank you, and you know, perpetually let's grow the group. I'd also like to do some follow-up and share ideas and get feedback about the Bike Walk Summit that we've been kicking around. We talked about it back in January, and then it went to sleep because of COVID. And I think it's okay to wake it back up and go ahead and do a Bike Walk Summit via Zoom. And it can be along the lines of what we've talked about before, where I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see you all again, where we have a summit that has two purposes. One is to like provide juice and motivation and bring people together, but also to provide a venue and a facilitated process to take some of these needs and resources that Michael talked about and form them into a bit of a work plan where multiple members of the Alliance get together and work on specific identified projects. And over the years, we've identified a lot of areas where there could be collaboration, like maintenance. The city, the county, the university, the various private entities that manage trails all need volunteers. They're all running volunteer programs, yet it's difficult for a citizen who just is interested in making a difference to know where they can make a difference. So is there some kind of way we can work together to channel volunteer energy? That's just one example, or signage, or education programs. And there's a whole bunch of areas where working together is possible. And it's happened at a sort of ad hoc way. Like PEC has gotten together with community bikes in the city to run the Bike Seville program. Or the Rivanna Trails Foundation has a representative from Cambic, and they work closely together. Is there a way we can take that strength and grow it? And that would be a facilitated discussion about that would be also a feature of the summit. I've spoken to the Institute for Engagement, IEN is the Institute for Engagement and Negotiation, used to be an environmental negotiation, and I'm an alum of that program, about whether they could actually run a facilitated Zoom-based discussion where we talk about where our assets are and where our needs are, opportunities for overlap, forming breakout groups, and then these breakout groups get together and create little mini work plans. But all of that adds up to the Alliance's work plans. And that's based on, Amanda's seen it, and others have, the way the Shenandoah Bike Coalition makes their work program. Every year they have a meeting and they set short-term goals and say, okay, in time for the next business meeting, we're going to do X. And it may be like, we'll have a meeting or we'll create a survey. And they also have a year-long agenda item that then gets hopefully executed in time for the next summit. And then they either renew that and keep working on it or declare victory and move on. that seemed like something that could possibly work here. And IEN said, yeah, okay, we could do it. I had asked them about whether this is something that could be done in time for November summit. And they said, no, like November is too soon, that's in the fall semester and it's planned out. But they were excited about doing something with us in January. So I have two questions, I guess, or a couple of questions. Number one, are there objections to that approach? Number two, are there a couple of people that could work with me to organize this summit? Organizing the virtual summit is going to be easier than doing the live summit would have been. We don't have to book a room and the budget's lower, but PC does have budget to cover this. And then the third question to consider is if January makes sense in terms of timing. So I open the floor for feedback on any of those questions.
Go for it. If you're going to do it midwinter, I guess January is a good time. Or February, maybe.
One thing about January that seemed good is if we do it in January, especially like mid-January, we could have a 3-week goal that lands right in springtime when people are like hankering to get outside. So, so that would be a thing. Like we're not running events, but in a normal world, I could imagine like there being an events group that would want to do something like to a spring event or yeah, go ahead. All right, so not hearing the clamor, I want to pull a word that that FAR uses in their meeting. They have a word they use called voluntel. So Jessica, would you object to me volunteering you to work with me on the summit a little bit? Maybe an advisory role. Can TJPDC be involved in some kind of way?
Yeah, I think that TJPDC can be involved. I think as long as the summit is not focused entirely on advocacy, we can support you in that.
Excellent. And we'll talk about, you know, where that line is specifically. Okay, so we'll go forward with that. Tanya also asked me to have you all think about whether this approach to theory of change, where representatives from organizations make commitments to something that could be done in a year, is something that the organizations themselves are going to be able to deliver on. And I can't answer that for anybody but PC. And PC, we're pretty circumscribed about what we can agree to because we shall deliver on it. What thoughts do you guys have? And this is something we can dig into more in October. But are there initial thoughts on whether that theory of change is going to be one that's appropriate?
Seems like some of these organizations, like Terry Kent's, probably already have goals that they're developing for the year, and it might be just a matter of identifying the subset of their overall goals that align with the goals of this organization. So it wouldn't really be like for them, it wouldn't really be like a separate goal setting exercise, just one of identifying the subset that pertains. That makes sense?
That's a great point, Frank, and that's one reason we have the organizational surveys. It's going to be essential that people really be versed on what their organization is about and what their work program contains and what sounds great but may not be on that work program, and being able to be honest up front about that. Since you mentioned, what do you think, Terry? You have coalition in your name, after all.
Collaboration, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's great. It's always good for accountability to verbalize that to a big group. I mean, it would definitely not be a new goal. We would not necessarily create a new goal, but it would, like, if you give people the flexibility of 1 year, of course, an organization like ours, we have more than one goal on transit and transportation emissions, but to kind of be held to the group accountability, I think, is really smart. Yeah, and I don't want to speak for, I've got a team of people I need to talk to, but it seems to me a smart theory.
I was thinking more in terms of by sharing what your goals were, that it would enable the rest of us to help you out.
Yes.
Versus you presenting your goals, so we could hold you to them. More to be able to,
support. Yeah.
In a support, as a group support mechanism.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really important point. Thank you. Yeah, it would be great. Yeah, I mean, that's the brilliance of you putting together this group, Peter, so that we are aware and we can see those intersections and work together. So, yeah.
Okay, and Tanya, part of the agreement with IEN is we would have like a little team from them that would work with us over time. So I'll ask her if they can help us, really make plain what those areas are that we're working on. So it's easy for people to see, like, okay, so this is everything that's going on. Here's where the overlap is, and here's where maybe we could contribute. One of the values of the Harrisonburg Summit, and having a summit rather than just a larger version of your regular meeting, is it's an opportunity for us to really yank in people that may or may not be doing the work, but we want them to see the work that's happening. So at in the Harrisonburg Summit, they have as many elected officials in there as due process will allow. So we would hopefully have 2 members of the Board of Supervisors seeing this work that's happening, and 2 members of the City Council seeing what's happening, and hopefully someone from the Transportation Board seeing it, and giving them the opportunity to step up and see that it's in their interest to be stepping up. So the summit would include, like, our sort of core group. It would certainly attract people who are, like, interested, have energy, but don't have an org behind their name. And then also important stakeholders, business owners, elected officials, etc. Okay, so thank you for that, and we'll talk about it more in a small group between now and October, and we'll have a bigger set of updates about this in October. I also would like to, I had on the agenda talking about a naming process for the group. What do you guys think? How should we, how should we do this? I've been collecting nominees. Let's see here. I imagine there sometime there would be a vote about it. I'd love to hear your suggestions about ways to get a name, because not having a name can be a hindrance.
Ranked choice vote.
One idea I had was to collect name ideas by social media, or have some kind of winnowing process by social media, and then the group decide among those, perhaps at the summit when there's a likely to be a large turnout, or at one of our meetings. I think ranked choice voting is a good way to administer the vote. What's a good venue for doing the vote?
Hey, Peter, it's Rex.
Hey, Rex.
I was just thinking that this is the kind of thing that brainstorming, getting people together in actually the same room when they can see each other and kick ideas around is a great way to kind of come up with a name. Just start writing things down, and the silence, that of a Zoom call, right, yep, makes it difficult for people to kick that around in a big group. It almost seems like, I've seen, I think it was IEN that did a really great workshop where they kind of sent people back into breakout groups using Zoom and things like that, where you've got, some small breakout Zoom groups with 2 or 3 or 4 people that can chat and kick around a name. I mean, it almost seems like there might be some cool ways to use technology to do that, where we do a Zoom call and then have some planned breakout groups, and you get 3 or 4 people together in a breakout group, and they're tasked with, coming back with 2 or 3 names, or 1 or 2 suggestions, and it kind of puts people on the spot. Whereas a thing like this, it's hard for people to brainstorm, bounce ideas off of each other, and even feels awkward kind of interrupting and taking yourself off mute. So it makes it hard for people to just talk.
That's a great idea. We could set that up for next time if you want, and it could at a minimum be a breakout, like a nomination process.
Yeah, Peter, this is Marco. I think brainstorming, which you already have done with some folks in this group, is a really great idea to start with. And I think just thinking about ways to involve, say, the Facebook group, there's just one venue, there's like 700 people who expressed interest. Putting that question out there, here are some ideas, rank some of these, but then also providing a space in that survey for other random ideas. You might not get any, but at least that involves that larger group in that process. And then, taking a look at those results, bringing it back to this smaller group, and actually deciding. There might be a very clear winner in that, and everyone might say, oh, it makes a lot of sense for us just to go with that. But there might be, 3 that are sort of, that are the finalists, and then it's up to this smaller group of more active folks to decide. But at least that way you've involved that larger group in that process.
Okay, I think that's great, and that's something that can start tomorrow, really. So in some kind of way. So okay, so what we're going to do is somebody else mentioned mural before. We'll do something with social media, and we'll dig back into it in some kind of way at the next in the October meeting. Being respectful of time, I want to make sure that we in the last 20 minutes we have opportunities for folks to give updates, because this is, after all, a big piece of what we're about is sharing what we're up to and people hearing, hey, that sounds interesting. I have the size wrench that you need, but at a larger scale than needing a wrench. Who would like to start us out with some updates? Tell you what, I'm going to actually start it with a prompt to Chris Ginsick. We have the, because I know there's overlap on that. Chris Ginsick, we have United Way Day, which is now Week of Caring, coming up. How can people get involved with the Day of Caring or the Week of Caring, and do you want help?
Certainly. Thank you for the opportunity. The Day of Caring is different this year. It is a week of caring so that we can, instead of 80 people in one day, have 20 people a day for 4 days. You would sign up through the United Way. We're going to be working at the new Hayward property to construct some trails. I know Eric Magrum, who is a Cambic board member, signed up his office to come up. So he's working on the 2nd. Which is good. He's coming up because he has technical skills that'll be helpful. Today, that's the only reservation I have. Any other year, I would already be full of volunteers for Day of Caring. So any group here that wants to get involved, you can check the United Way's website. If they've already closed registrations, just get a hold of me directly and we'll set up a time to go up there. The other neat win that I think, Peter, you're aware of, and Rex obviously, and maybe some others here, in terms of a coalition, is both the 5-acre addition, the land we're going to buy next to Hayward that came up. We had to get an appraisal done. The city couldn't pay for the appraisal. We've got grant money to buy the land. We sort of passed the hat, and the mountain bike group, the Charlottesville Trail Runners, the Ravenna Trail Foundation, and then it turned out there were some other private donors, all said, we'll chip in for the appraisal. Well, we got the appraisal paid for in another way, but those groups are now paying Joe Hoskins to take his mechanized equipment up and blast through the worst sections of the trail system at Hayward. So to me, that's a success story about how these groups all come together with a like-minded, yeah, it's some trails that get me up to Ragged. I can get down with that, whether you ride a bike, hike, walk, run. And that's a neat project to see where they're literally putting money on the table and the city's doing this and the private contractor's doing that. I think it's gonna be a big success. Yeah, Day of Caring, check United Way or call me. We'll get you up there.
And your email address is easy, right? It's just ginsick@charlottesville.gov.
Yes, it is. And one other quick note on, because this is the Greenway Coalition group, I've decided my boss and I are going to sign these MOUs that we've been batting back and forth for years between different staffs and attorneys and risk management people, so that groups like RTF, Cambic, CAT, whoever, can start using weed eaters and chainsaws with their appropriate training out on public trails. We're understaffed, and Peter, you mentioned maintenance. I think this group is going to be critical in helping the public have a nice view of our trails, so that when we get more trails, they don't say, well, why would I go there? Those things are horribly maintained. Who wants more of that? So we help keep all these things in good shape, so we put on a good face.
Thank you.
General update too, just I'll mention the Water Street and 250 trails are finally done. We're spending work on, and then we'll move on to Rugby Avenue next, we hope, for the big paved system.
Awesome, thank you. Now, I'm also going to call on somebody else who is Eric Eric, you showed up late, and you're actually an awesome person to have in this conversation. Why don't you give us say who you are and give us a quick update of what Cambic's up to?
Okay, you guys hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm Eric Megram. I'm a board member at Cambic, and happy to be involved in this as much as possible. Sorry, I'm late on the call, trying to shove it in on work. But yeah, I'm thrilled to be part of this for sure. And you know, we had a Cambic board meeting last week, and we, you know, we as a board look to harness kind of energy and resources from the club for projects that have, you know, movement and energy. You know, we have a volunteer army of people that have trail building skills, and you know, the main mission of the club is to build sustainable trails in our community and get more people involved in mountain biking. But the trail steward aspect of our mission and the sustainable trail design and building part of our mission is something that we take very seriously, and we feel like we contribute significantly to the regional sort of trail community from that aspect as well. And so when we hear Chris and the projects that the city are working on and moving forward, we sure try to do everything we can do within our resources to support those projects when they do have energy toward those projects. And, you know, right now, everything that Chris is doing at the Hayward Forest and that property has been great. So we were happy to be a part of helping pay for that appraisal until a private donor stepped up. We're happy to help sort of contribute funds to the trail design and building of that property as well as contributing a volunteer army to help with maintenance of those trails and the finishing work on those trails as well. So we are doing a day of caring with my work organization with Chris on Tuesday. And I reached out to the rest of the mountain bike club last night after speaking with Chris about trying to organize some other groups from other work groups or other resources to help Chris throughout the rest of the week. I did not realize that he has blocked off his entire week to be out there for the whole week for other groups that come out, but we're the only group that signed up. So I'd be happy to facilitate that if that's too much on Chris's plate to get other groups out there on that property to help him with that project through the rest of the week next week. I realize now it's short notice as it's next week is the week of caring, but we usually do a project and we get, you know, 40 to 80 people out there. So that's you know, having socially distanced and a limited group of, you know, 15 or so is just a lot harder to get that work done and support Chris and what he's trying to do. So anyway, if people are interested in doing that, I can help facilitate some of that information as I pass that along to other club members last night as well. If other groups are interested in going out to spend a day in the woods and help Chris on that project, it's an absolutely beautiful piece of property with a gorgeous forest that we're sort of putting a trail winding off the lower parking lot trail up toward Round Top. It's or up to the saddle toward Round Top. It's a beautiful piece of property, and the trail has been sort of pin flagged out there and walked to ready it for the day of caring.
Awesome, Eric. Be sure to drop your email address, the one you would like people to use.
Yeah,
please.
Yeah, I'm Eric Megram, so MAGRUM 00 @gmail. So I'm happy to talk to anybody anytime about things that the mountain bike club and the board can do to facilitate projects, and thrilled to be involved in this coalition as it comes together any way, shape, or form.
Thank you. Michael Barnes, I see that you have arrived after we did the intros. By way of update, why don't you give us a quick thing about who you are and what's going on that's cool?
I work for VDOT, managing funds that are going towards the city and the county, state and federal funds for transportation projects. Of course, in this regard, trail projects. I think probably the most interesting thing that people will be interested in what VDOT's doing right now is I think in October, we should get the list of approved projects for the Transportation Alternatives, the TAP program. So some of you all in Albemarle and Scottsville may be awarded depending on what the Commonwealth Transportation Board does. The other aspect is the revenue sharing applications, which are supposed to fund several trails in the community. The state is still assessing its budget status, and it's not completely clear whether those projects will be funded or not in this year due to the issues happening with COVID. And then the final thing, I guess, is smart scale. There are multiple projects that the county, PDC, and the city are putting in that are multimodal related. The list is pretty long, but again, hopefully that will go forward and be funded. We'll know more in the next several months about what's happening with those projects.
Very cool, thank you. Let's see, Dan Butch, are you still on the call? Did we lose both Dans? Okay. Who else? Who has a cool update?
The Monticello Avenue and Emmett Street bike lane upgrades are ongoing and nearly complete. So, you know, hopefully you've gotten a chance to ride those. There's still some adjustments that need to be made on Monticello. And I haven't been over to Emmett Street lately, but let us know what you think of those.
Amanda, adjustments to the Monticello Avenue lanes, does that mean that additional paint is going down? Does it mean that paint is being moved? What do you mean by adjustment?
Sorry, one of in the area around the curb island, it wasn't marked as indicated on the plan, so they're just like making the transitions a little bit smoother, and you know, they're also adding coming up the hill from Quarry and the city limit, or the city-county boundary up the hill, and then transitioning, you know, similarly past that island out of the city to shared lane markings, but you know, smoothing that transition out a little bit. So and also adding buffers in the areas where they're marked on the plan. So
where's the section of Emmett where the work is happening?
South of Ivy Road, so between JPA and Ivy Road.
Okay.
So actually within the corner, like, zone, there's that short little bike lane that went in close to the Killer Bridge. Yeah. And so then beyond that?
You're talking about Emmett.
Yeah, I'm talking about Emmett Street,
Yes,
not University.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yeah. Yay.
A VDOT funded project, a partially VDOT funded project.
Correct.
But this is not the big project though, right?
No, Frank, this is basically a repaving project that starts where JPA runs into University, sort of down where JPA Extended sort of comes off, and then running past Mem Gym up to University Avenue.
Under the McCormick Road Bridge. I think the big change there will be some green conflict zone markings and just some upgrades to what was there before. I mean, it's basically replacing the partial bike lanes, adding shared lane markings, which we realize is not really a facility type, but at least providing more continuity between the portions of bike lanes, plus heightened awareness at the conflict point.
Peter, if I could, this is Chris Genzik again. I wanted to give a kind of a shout out to the VDOT folks over along the Route 20 trail between the new Woolen Mills Bridge and Moose's wonderful breakfast joint. Not only did they finally approve an easement permit for the RTF to exist within the interstate right-of-way, on our recent hike to allow trail to go up over that one culvert where the fence has been cut through, they were very supportive in letting us do that, like move the right-of-way fence officially. It was kind of done unofficially, but they seem to be supportive of making that happen. Rip, maybe you could add on to this, but it seems like the idea of going under the culvert out to Ragged Mountain, at least with the RTF connection on Fontaine, which when they really redo that intersection, we might get a multi-use trail kind of thing. But they kind of said, sure, put some lights in the culvert, and they weren't. They didn't put a big fat no on that, right, Rip? I mean, that to me is a big jump forward from 10 years ago.
I wouldn't take a not no as a yes,
right,
but
right.
I think it's fair to say that they enumerated a number of conditions that we might be able to meet, and that would be an attractive alternative. We did walk through it, and there's a lot of siltation in the channel that we were hoping to go through, so there might be some challenges to footing. It's obviously also subject to flooding, and so I think those are the major uncertainties about that plan. But it certainly would beat crossing all of the ramps at Fontaine Extended and the bypass. So I agree with that completely.
Not no with VDOT is a pretty good place to start. I mean, come on.
Absolutely, and actually, you guys didn't say this, but the thing that I loved about it is VDOT actually enumerated the conditions that are required. I thought that was huge in his application. So what they're talking about is there are situations all over the city where there's a creek that has maybe 4 bays of a culvert allocated, but the stream's only using 2. Could we use a disused or less needed culvert to get across a busy road? So they're talking about it at 29, but a familiar example is 5th Street, down by Wegmans. There's a multi-culvert that's an unofficial trail tunnel. And what does it take to make it official? Getting that defined by VDOT has been actually a very welcome development. Any other quick updates? We'll adjourn on time-ish.
Can I give an update on the pocket park at Charlotte Humphreys?
I was hoping you would, but I didn't want to volunteer you. Let's hear it.
Oh, okay. So we had our CAC meeting last Monday, and Amy Smith with the county's Parks and Rec gave an overview of all that they have done, and Parks and Rec has done an amazing job in the midst of everything being shut down. They managed to get installed 4 benches at the Charlotte Humphreys Park, which was the voted on wanted amenity for that park. So Parks and Rec had allocated $30,000 in last year's budget for some upkeep of that park, and they threw out a survey to area residents and community groups, and that rose to the top of the most wanted amenity. And they powered through, and they got all of the benches installed within the last 2 months. So it's been a park that has seen an explosion of uses, from young families to young adults to older adults. So it's been a great little resource. The other really, I think, key thing that the Parks and Rec folks were able to get done for us was a proper survey of the boundary of that park. It's land that has been held by the county's Department of Finance when you look at the records, but there was real kind of uncertainty about where the boundary actually was. And we really advocated that they needed to get a proper survey done, because over the years, when there's been trees that have fallen and property owners, because it's bounded by a lot of private property, but when a tree has fallen, there's always this issue of, you know, paying for it and damage and stuff. And the county's been very good about taking care of stuff proactively and working with property owners. But I think having a proper survey is a clear, like, idea about where responsibility is. And so I think going forward, it also allows us to kind of zero in on how to help this very small, it's only 22 acres, forested area thrive a little bit more, because we've only ever seen trees that fall down get cut up and stockpiled, which works, but we've had the Department of Forestry come out and kind of do a walkthrough, and we just have an awful lot of invasives in this park. And unless we can get a handle on some of this, this is not going to be a wooded parcel for very long. And so we need to have, I think, a much more careful look at how to make this a healthier, more vibrant little parcel. So having the survey done, I think, is helpful. I think we need to now have some more conversations about how to keep it a more healthy forested parcel. So anybody have thoughts about how to do that or examples of where that's been done? I would love to hear from folks.
Thank you. And if those are your wind chimes, thank you for those too. I think that's one of the best parts. Please stay unmuted. That background sound is welcome. Yeah, Rex, and let's have our little PC peeps think about if there's opportunities for PC to maybe get more involved with Charlotte Humphreys than we have in the past. That's kind of right up our wheelhouse too. So,
and Kim, this is Chris Genzik. Offline from this meeting, let's get a hold of each other. I've done a lot with Master Naturalist, Department of Forestry, and landscape level maintenance beyond just trail stuff. So I'm happy to give you some thoughts offline.
Great, thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. And kind of to that point, so here's what's going to happen next. Michael and I are going to type up the notes. And normally when I communicate with you guys, I do it with a blind copy. But this next email that I'm going to send, or the email that has the notes, is going to be an open copy. So you have each other's email addresses if you want them. Keep that in mind when you do a reply all, that everybody will see your response. And I'll say that within the email. I'll give that warning. I encourage people to collaborate across the room and that sort of thing. I will set up a meeting before the end of the week or start a process for a next meeting, which will be late October, late afternoon, early evening, and we'll get that going. Note that PC's offices are closed entirely next week, so Rex, Marco, and I will be off the grid entirely. If you have stuff for us, send it to us before then or after. And if any of you are able to help manage the Facebook group during that time, let me know afterward. Thank you. Any other parting words or urgent things before we all go forth and thrive? Thank you all, and I will see you all soon.